Good morning, everyone. Okay, I know it's this kind of a snowy day, but we're going to have to do a little better than that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome to the White House. First and foremost, thank you for braving the cold and the snow that we have here in Washington, D.C. We are sorry that a couple of classes weren't able to join us in person today because of snow days, but I'm sure they'd much rather be here, and they'll be watching today on our live stream. This will be live streamed today at whitehouse.gov/live, and we're also taking questions on Twitter. Our hashtag today is SoSTEM, as in State of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. So we're excited about that. So thank you for coming to the White House today, and we are just thrilled. This is our favorite event every year, to take your tough questions on the state of science, technology, engineering, and math. We're joined today by the President's Science Advisor, Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, Dr. John Holdren. We're also going to be joined today by our Chief Technology Officer, Todd Park, and we are joined by special guests from the First Lady's State of the Union Address box from last night, other exceptional administration officials, and our 2013 NASA candidate class. We are just so thrilled to have them as well. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to the President's Science Advisor, Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, Dr. John Holdren.
Well, thank you, Bess, and thanks to all of you for being here, and welcome to the White House. As I think all of you know, the President made a rather major speech last night, the State of the Union address, and I hope that many of you at least had a chance to watch, not least because he talked about the importance of science, technology, engineering, and math, about the importance of STEM education, about the importance of basic research to the future of our country. The Constitution itself says that the President gives every year an address to Congress describing the state of our nation, the State of the Union. It doesn't say in the Constitution exactly how the President is supposed to convey that information, but it's always been done, in fact, in the form of a major speech. The history of this is pretty complicated and interesting. George Washington gave his State of the Union as a speech. Calvin Coolidge did it. Harry Truman did it. He was the first to do it on TV. Probably very few people in this room are old enough to have even remembered who Harry Truman is, but I hope you studied the history of U.S. presidents in school. President Obama broke new ground in this domain because his speeches, including last night's, have been accompanied by real-time infographics, Facebook posts, and tweets. And again, I hope some of you at least benefited from those technological twists on the State of the Union address. And it's appropriate to what we're here for today because I can tell you as President Obama's science advisor that nobody appreciates more than this president how and why science, technology, engineering, and math matter for the future of our country and how STEM education matters for the future of our country. If you listened to the speech last night, you heard him say quite a bit about that, the importance of the STEM subjects, as we call them. He talked about the importance of basic research, reminding us that that's a fundamental responsibility of government to make investments in basic research, which provide the seed corn on which all future advances in science, technology, engineering will be based. And because basic research is a highly uncertain proposition, you're investigating questions whose answers you don't know in advance, there's a considerable chance that the research will not succeed. If it does succeed, the economic returns are likely to be far down the road, and you can't tell in advance who in particular is going to get those returns, whether they'll come to the researchers who developed the original idea or whether they'll come to somebody else. For all of those reasons, the private sector is never going to fund enough basic research to meet the needs of society. The government has to do it. We have been doing it, and we intend to continue to maintain that leadership in federal government support for this research, which is so important as the seed corn of our future advances. The President mentioned last night some of the possibilities that will flow from continuing investments in fundamental research, better understanding of how the brain works and all the benefits that can flow from that, new materials that are, as he noted, as thin as paper but as strong as steel, new drugs to fight bacteria that are getting better at resisting conventional antibiotics, new ways of getting energy from sunlight and other renewable resources, so we can stop adding harmful carbon pollution to our atmosphere, the pollution that is changing the climate of the globe. The President also talked last night about education and about improving STEM education in middle and high schools, about strengthening STEM education and learning in college, and about getting more students like you interested in STEM fields and prepared for study and careers in cutting-edge areas like neuroscience, engineering, material science, nanotechnology, cybersecurity. These are jobs, by the way, that tend to pay better than other jobs. And they're jobs where women don't find themselves earning less than men in the way they do in many other kinds of jobs. A point I want to emphasize for all the young women in the audience today. And the President talked about that last night as well. Most important, these are interesting jobs, jobs that stretch the boundaries of what we know and what we can do, where you get paid to explore, to discover, to build and create day after day. One day, one of you might end up advising a president of the United States, who knows? So my message to you today is that the state of STEM in our country is strong, and we're counting on you, all of you, and young people like you all across the country to keep it strong and to make it even stronger. And so toward that end, I'm going to be introducing you this morning to some science and technology superstars who are real-life examples of how far a solid STEM education can take you. A few of them you might even recognize from their TV appearance last night in the First Lady's box during the President's State of the Union address. I hope that they'll inspire you to keep studying science, engineering, and math, and that they'll convince you to keep asking tough questions, keep thinking about what you could invent or discover that would make the world a better place. And with that, I'm going to ask our panelists to come out. Where are our panelists? We need Joey Hurdy and Tyrone Davis and Kristen Dorgalow and Gil Pratt. And what I'm going to ask them to do in the order they appear to my left is to just say a few words about who they are and what they do. And after that, we will turn the floor over to you to raise your hands and ask them and me any question you like. So, Joey, would you start?
Hi, I'm Joe Hurdy. I'm a maker and an engineer.
Hi, I'm Tyrone Davis. Currently attend law school at Edelman University School of Law. I have previous experience in trying to help universities in small towns reduce their energy consumption.
Morning, everybody. I'm Kristen Dorgalow. I work here at the Office of Science and Technology Policy, and I work on two things. One is grand challenges, which are audacious yet achievable goals that can help us reach 21st century moonshots and change our future through science and technology, and also open innovation and incentive prizes, which is how we are asking citizens like you to help us solve problems on challenge.gov.
Hi there, I'm Gil Pratt. I work at DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. We're the agency that brought you the internet, amongst other really cool things. And right now I work on robotics, which I think is pretty exciting to a lot of young people, and in particular something called the DARPA Robotics Challenge. And I also work on things called neuromorphic computers, which sounds very fancy, but it's really trying to build computers that work in ways that are similar to how our brains work.
Thanks. The one repair I want to make to those introductions is that Joey didn't say very much about what he has done other than that he's a maker. And Joey, I wish you'd say just a little bit more about how you came to be here, including what you made in 2012 to show to the President at the White House Science Fair.
All right. Well, in 2012, I built a marshmallow cannon, which is technical term of it is a pneumatic cannon, and I showed it off at the White House Science Fair, and I got to shoot it off with President Obama. And from that going on, I've gotten a couple internships now. I'm now interning with Intel. And then from that, I got to be in Michelle Obama's box.
Terrific. He also, after he had launched that marshmallow across the East Room with the president, he handed the president a card with his credo, "Don't be bored, make something." The president has been making a lot of things, and he's never bored, I can assure you. But, with that, let's open it up to questions from the audience. If you'd like to ask a question to any member of the panel, please raise your hand, stand up, introduce yourself, and fire away, and tell us which panelist you'd like to answer your question. Okay, right here. We have a microphone for you.
This is sort of a question for all.
Introduce yourself,
sorry.
please.
I'm Sam Alterman. I'm a senior at BCC High School in Bethesda, Maryland, and I'm also a former intern at the University of California, Santa Cruz in their genetics department. And there have been several articles published lately saying, should we drop science from STEM? And I noticed that of the panelists, most of them are engineers or technology people and not scientists. And do you think that maybe we should sort of see science as something separate from technology, engineering, and mathematics, or are they inseparable? And what do you think basic scientific research could bring to the future of the country?
Well, I guess that's one that I should take on first and then see if anybody wants to add anything. I think science, technology, engineering, and math are all inseparable. STEM is a unit. Anybody who's going to be a good engineer or a good technologist has to know a lot of science. Any scientist who's really going to be effective at improving the human condition should be thinking at least some of the time about the potential applications of the science that she or he is doing. All scientists, technologists, and engineers need the strongest math background they can possibly get. And so I think leaving out any part of that combination would be a mistake. Indeed, many of the most exciting things going on in science, technology, engineering, and math are going on precisely at the boundaries of what have traditionally been considered the content of these different fields, with engineers and scientists and mathematicians and technologists all working together to figure out how to combine their insights into advances that are going to improve our economic performance with advanced manufacturing, with new technologies and new materials, going to improve our environment, strengthen our national security, improve public health. The ways in which the STEM fields are contributing to improving human well-being could take the rest of the day and many days to follow just to describe.
Let me take that up too. So first let me tell you a little bit what DARPA is structured like. We have a number of offices, and they range actually from a science office, that's the one that I'm in, the Defense Sciences Office, to technology offices, to systems offices, and then finally to what we call transition offices, where we try to take the engineered things that we come up with and figure out how they're going to actually go into real systems in the real world. And so even within our one building, we see the important synergy and the symbiosis between things all the way from math to finally, well, what's the business model to make this thing work? And so that's one example. I'll give a second one, which is in my own work. And so I talked to you guys a little bit about neuromorphic computers, building a computer that works a little bit like the way that our brain works. The problem is we don't know how our brain works. And how are we going to figure that out? Well, that's through neuroscience. And so my own degree when I was at MIT is both in electrical engineering and also in neurophysiology. And so that's really a key thing, to be able to combine those things at the border, like John says, to be able to see those synergies and actually make an impact. So I very much agree that we have to have all these things together.
Good, let's get another question down here.
Earlier you said interesting jobs. Can you define that, please? I'm Jake Duffels, by the way.
Thank you. Well, the first thing I say when people ask me what my job is like, I say, first of all, it's never boring. And that's the first ingredient of an interesting job, a job that never bores you, a job that makes you happy to get up in the morning and go to work, rather than saying, oh heavens, I have to get through another workday. The second thing I think that makes an interesting job is a job that matters, a job that you can feel proud of because what you're doing is improving the lives of people somewhere, somehow, in some way. The third thing that makes an interesting job is a job that draws on the skills and the talents that you personally have developed. So you really are using what you've got to the best advantage. That would be a quick description, but again, others may want to add something.
You know, I'll jump in on that one. I have the pleasure and honor when I work on these competitions that I mentioned, these prizes, to get to hang out with people who I think have amazingly interesting jobs. In fact, people accuse me of having one, and I think they're right. I get teased for my title here at the White House. I'm as the Assistant Director for Grand Challenges. I get asked whether I should have a sword with that job. But the thing that I get to observe is that these scientists and these technologists, the engineers who are building solutions in the competitions I get to run, they love their job for a couple of reasons, and some of them include what Dr. Holdren mentioned. One of them, though, is that they get to go to summer camp for engineers as adults. So they join these prizes. They're competing to build the most cool tools. So for example, I worked on a competition for oil cleanup technology. Do you guys remember the Gulf oil spill that happened a few years back? So these engineers came together and they came to this testing facility and they deployed this amazing, groundbreaking set of oil cleanup technologies, things that had never seen oil and water before. And they actually ended up beating the industry's previous best performance by 4 times in that one summer, in a really short period of time. And these guys had this huge grin, and the teams and families that entered, I guarantee, have very interesting jobs. So.
Good.
Summer camp for engineers.
Let's take another question. Yes, right down here. Here comes a microphone, and introduce yourself, please.
My name is Taryn, and what types of robots do you make?
Hi, Taryn. So DARPA doesn't actually make anything. What we do is we inspire and we fund other folks to make stuff. So I'll tell you in the DARPA Robotics Challenge what kind of robots we made. And these are robots for disaster response. So you may remember a few years ago, I think you were a little younger, there was a thing called the Fukushima disaster. And what happened there was an earthquake, a very large one, struck off the coast of Japan, and there was a tidal wave, and the water went all the way into a nuclear power plant. And it cut off all the power in that plant. And that's actually a very bad thing for a nuclear reactor because it gets too hot. It needs to be cooled down. And so they started by sending people in to try to open some valves to vent those reactors because the pressure was getting too big. And it turned out that the radiation in that area was too large, people had to turn back. And so because they couldn't open those valves, they actually had 3 big explosions, which was a very big catastrophe from an environmental point of view. So we started a project to build robots that could respond to disasters like that people could operate at a distance from wherever the bad environment was. And that's really what we're working on the most now. And recently we had one of the challenges that Kristen was talking about, and we had a second event down in Florida last month, and teams composed of college students for the most part, but also some companies came and competed to see who could build the best robot that could respond to these kinds of disasters. So I hope that answers your question.
Good. Let's have another one. Yes, down here in the front row.
Hi, I'm Anshul Jory, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Silver Chips Online, Montgomery Blair High School's nationally recognized newspaper. And my question to all of you is, how can STEM students, what advice do you have for young STEM students, and how do you think we can get more involved in the type of work that you're doing?
Tyrone and Joey, you guys want to answer that?
I would say for STEM students that if you have an idea, don't hesitate to start building it. Build it straight away. There's resources out there. There's great communities out there. So if you have an idea, start building it.
And I would just add to that, if you set goals for yourself and make a plan to achieve those goals, that will go a long way in your development as a student.
Maybe I'll add one more thing, which we practice at our agency no matter how grown up all the people are that work for us. Don't be afraid to fail, okay? Because failure and learning what you don't understand through trying and then failing is actually an integral part of doing work in science, technology, engineering, and math. The important thing is that when you do fail, and it happens to all of us, to the best of us, you try again and again and again and again until that light bulb finally goes on and you understand how to do something.
Good. Yes.
I'm Chandler Hawkins. I'm in 8th grade and I go to Our Lady of Lourdes School. My question is, what are you guys looking forward to in the future of STEM?
I think we ought to have our young panelists take that first. Tyrone, you want to talk about that?
Sure. I would say that I'm looking forward to seeing what innovative technology is developed in the future to help solve some of the environmental issues that we face today, in particular issues related to climate change. How can we develop technology to help our manufacturing plants and other power or energy producing plants? How can we develop technology and systems to help those places reduce the amount of carbon emissions that they put into the air? And I'm really looking forward to that in the future.
Joey?
I would say I'm looking forward for more STEM going into more of the schools and getting it more spread out to larger areas of schools, and yeah.
I'll take one on there, Dr. Holdren, which is, I get to work in a really optimistic job. When we think about grand challenges, we think about what STEM could actually help us solve. And so we get to dream big about how science and technology can actually help us solve these big problems like you were describing. And so if you come to my office one day, you're going to see that I have a whiteboard covered in crazy ideas. It includes things like superpowers and the ability to have super strong material and scale walls and all the things we read in comic books. It includes the robots that Gil has been working on, but also things like using science and technology to cure diseases of the brain, so the President's Brain Initiative that was launched last year, and things like solar as cheap as coal, so we have a future of clean energy renewables like you were talking about. So I really believe that STEM is going to be the answer to collaboration in the society and also to solving some really big challenges we face. So I'm pretty optimistic that way.
I want to add one thing, too, that I've been looking forward to all my life and enjoying all my life, and I continue to look forward to it, and that's all we are learning about space, about our solar system, about our universe through our space program, including the human exploration part, and you'll hear more about that in a later panel this morning. The space telescopes, the extraordinary images that we're getting back from the Hubble and our other space telescopes, the extraordinary search for other habitable planets. I'm almost 70 years old, and I wish I could live another 70 years to find out all the things that we are going to learn by looking outward and exploring outward. We're going to visit asteroids. We're ultimately going to send human beings to Mars. We're going to keep exploring, moving outward, and learning more. This is an immensely exciting adventure. At the same time, we're going to be learning more about our own planet. We're going to be looking inward. We're going to be exploring the oceans, which are still largely unexplored territory on this planet. We need to understand it better as well.
Great.
Let's have another one from this side. I need to go back a little further. Let's go back here.
Hi, I'm a teacher at Montgomery Blair High School. I'm the advisor to the Silver Chips Online newspaper. I was recently in China and got to see the terracotta warriors. And when they were explaining excavating the soldiers, I said, we are going to save some of these things for future generations. Our technology isn't there yet. I was wondering if there's anything that you guys are thinking about saving for future generations that we see now, but we know we don't want to touch for the future. Thank you.
Well, I'll share one. There's a growing, Dr. Holdren was talking about the future of space, and there's a growing commercial space industry that's exploring space, and we actually have on the moon a number of historic things, footprints, pieces of equipment, and there's an entire team at NASA that thinks about lunar science and how to actually protect those artifacts if we go back to the moon and explore the moon commercially or otherwise.
Another thing I think we have to think about preserving is biodiversity on this planet, the diversity of living things, which can be thought of as a unique library full of books, many of which we haven't even learned to read. And we need to be sure to hang on to that biodiversity so that we can learn its secrets in the future. This is an enormously important challenge since we make many demands on the ecosystems of the planet, demands for food and fiber and fuel, demands on land for habitation and industry, demands on water for human use, for agriculture, and so on. But in the midst of all those demands, we have to allow space for the preservation of biodiversity so that future generations can read in ways we cannot yet read the secrets that are contained in all that diversity. Let's have another one on this side. Yes.
Hi, I'm Piper Stigrist from the Governor's School at Innovation Park in Manassas, Virginia. And just following up about the commercial space sector, what do you see as their role in the future of space exploration, specifically manned space exploration?
Well, NASA has said, and the President has said, that we can and should turn over a larger and larger part of some of our missions, particularly initially carrying cargo and crew to low Earth orbit, where the International Space Station resides, to the private sector. They have the capability to do it. In competition, they have the ability to do it less expensively, but still safely. And of course, NASA will still oversee and ensure the safety of all commercial crew operations as these emerge over time. I personally have been enormously impressed by the accomplishments of the commercial sector. I have visited the SpaceX manufacturing facility in Hawthorne, California, and seen 7 different Dragon capsules in various stages of assembly. I've seen there a 3D printer that works in titanium, producing rocket motor parts so complex in their geometry that they could never be machined. I think there's a huge future in the private space industry. And at the same time, we will continue to be relying on NASA for the cutting edge science and technology at which NASA excels and has unique capabilities for reaching farther, seeing more. But it's increasingly going to be a partnership between the federal government and the private sector. Over here.
I'm Zach Rudge. I'm a 7th grader at Allsdale Middle School. And how can robotics provide our basic needs for the future?
Hey there, Zach. I think that's, first of all, an excellent question. And I always like to kind of reduce it to the reason that I started in the robotics field to begin with, which was I was a little kid and I was very messy. And my mom used to tell me to clean my room all the time. And I started to imagine, well, you know, how could I do this without actually doing it? And so, you know, in my head popped up this dream. What if a robot could clean my room for me? And then I could spend my time doing other stuff, which would probably make my room more messy. But the robot would take care of it. So it turns out that as I grew up, that the robotics field actually had the same idea. And robots are really good for dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks. So I spoke a little bit before about dangerous tasks like disaster response, but they're really, really good at things that are very dull, that really human beings shouldn't be doing, and also things that are dirty that you really don't want to do. And so you think about those dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks. I think that's the sort of best answer to your question.
Okay, let's have another one from this side. Yes.
I'm Grace Clark from Time for Kids, and Mr. Pratt, do the robots get to know their operators and anticipate what they are doing? Can they develop an abbreviated form of communication?
Those are excellent questions. So our robots look kind of almost like human beings when you look at them on the outside. So physically, they look incredibly impressive, just like robots in science fiction movies and things like that. But it turns out that inside of their little computers that they have to do their thinking, they're actually very, very simple. They have intelligence inside of them that's not more sophisticated than an ant. okay? Really, really dumb kind of things. And so it's true that our robots, as we program them, are trying to operate for a few seconds when the communication link between the operator and the robot is not so good. And we're working very hard on that because we know in real disasters that communications is often really spotty, like a really bad cell phone call. You know how they drop out and come back. But in general, you have to remember that the human brain is an extraordinary thing, and even though the robots kind of look like they can do thinking of their own, they actually can't. They rely on human beings to do that part. So I think to answer your question, it's actually the partnership between the operator and the robot that makes them very effective. Do the robots actually know the operator? Only a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit.
Okay, I'm going to ask for some questions to be directed to our young people up here because we old folks are giving too many of the answers. So who's got a question for the young people? Yes, in the fourth row there.
My name is Jasmine Perrier, and I go to Raymond Education Campus. And my question is for Joey. What gave you the idea to make a marshmallow cannon, and why did you make it?
Oh, I was actually bored in school one of the days. Imagine that. And I had my pencil just ran out of lead, and so I had an empty Gatorade bottle, so I stuck the two together, and I squeezed the bottle, and the guts of the pencil went flying across the room. I got a little bit in trouble for that, but that led me to want to build a pressurized version of that and a higher powered version of that, so that's how that came about.
Great. Another question directed to the young people. Yes, in the second row there.
Hi, I'm Jake Duffels from Hardy Middle School, and I was just wondering, is there anything when you were littler, like say Legos or something, that led you to do more inventions, like you just said, finding how to build a pressurized marshmallow launcher? Was there anything else? And you too, Mr. Davis.
When I was littler, there was two things I remember was probably Legos, as you mentioned, I played it with a lot, and then also there's this one, I remember buying this one little science encyclopedia that I spent all my time reading and trying to understand what the heck they were talking about in the book.
And I played a lot with Legos as well. I used to try to build miniature cities and things like that, and I also used to read encyclopedias to learn more about animals, and I always had an interest in science, so I was always trying to find out a way that I could find more information about something that existed in the world or the universe.
Good. Let's have another. Let's see. I've not gotten anybody far on the back. Yes, right here. Right in the front.
My name is Trevor Gell, and I'm for National Geographic. And my question is, what do you think the future of green energy is?
I think the future of green energy is huge. As the President pointed out last night, we need to accelerate the transition to cleaner energy forms for many reasons, to reduce impacts of energy production and use on human health, but also, and perhaps most challenging, to reduce the impacts of energy production and use on the world's climate. That's really what we mean by green energy, energy that we can mobilize and use while minimizing environmental impacts, including those on climate. We've been doing pretty well. In this country, the amount of electricity we generate from wind has gone up by 2.5 times since 2008. The amount of electricity we generate from solar energy has gone up 5-fold since 2008. We've greatly increased our use of natural gas, which is the cleanest of the fossil fuels available to us. And it is the President's intention, this administration's intention, to continue to push on the cleaner energy sources, both for our own benefit, but for the benefit of the planet, and to show leadership in helping other nations understand that a transition to green energy is in the whole world's interest.
And I would just like to add to that, I think the future of green energy is huge as well, because as a society we are becoming more aware of some of the consequences that are associated with using more dirtier types of energy. And so I think a certain awareness allows us to develop more technologies and to do more research to see how we can develop more cleaner forms of energy.
Bess, according to my schedule, this panel is supposed to end at 10:45. Is that still right?
We've got time for about 2 more questions.
2 more questions.
So we'll take one in the audience, and then we'll take one from Twitter.
Okay, right here.
Hello, my name is Jayla Grant from Hardy Middle School. I'm in 8th grade, and I have a question for Mr. Pratt. Would the design of a robot increase job loss, which is what the president wants to decrease?
Absolutely great question, and one that we need to think deeply about, because I think it's a very valid concern. The problem of technology, let me talk about technology first, and then I'll talk about robotics in particular. The problem of technology and jobs is one that has been worried about for many, many years, and it's a very good question. Without a doubt, technology causes us to be more productive because a person can do more than they could just by their own without the technology. And so one way to look at it is to say, well, if the amount of work, the amount of stuff that we need to make, for instance, stays the same, we're going to need fewer people to make that stuff, and so we're going to lose jobs. But there's actually a different thing that happens. What happens is the cost of those things that are being made goes down, and people end up getting other jobs. And it turns out that there's more work to be done, doing things often that are actually much more exciting as jobs than they were before. Farming is a really great example. We used to employ many, many people, a large fraction of the population, to do farming. And I don't know if any of you have ever worked on a farm. It's incredibly hard work. You're up at the crack of dawn, you're breaking your back the whole day long, and then you go to sleep very late at night, every single day, the whole year round, year after year after year. Well, the tractor was a pretty good idea. And the tractor frees people up to do other things that, to be honest, are more interesting than the dull and the dirty and the dangerous tasks that they were doing before the technology came. And so we've seen this same kind of thing happen over and over again in history. And I believe in the robotics field, a large portion of the productivity gains that we're seeing are going to be compensated for by finding other jobs for people that are more dignified, that are more interesting, that are actually not as hard. And the great result of all this, I think, is that we're going to live much better lives and actually work less. And that's a very good thing to do.
So Bess, you said we have one from Twitter.
We actually have 2 from Twitter that are both for our young guests. The first is for Tyrone. Read your bio. How did you cut 200 tons of carbon emissions? And the second one is for Joey. Did you keep the marshmallow?
Well, I'll say this. I did my work at Elizabeth City State University, and the goal of my work there was to develop a plan for the university to become more energy efficient. And that included things like changing their lighting systems to more efficient lighting systems, reducing the amount of physical computer servers that they had. I recommended that they go to a virtualized server system. So that way you could save energy by cutting the amount of cool air you had to pump into the server room. And things like that would cut down the cost of electricity. And I networked with a lot of engineers that had experience in some of these areas, and they gave me estimates on how much energy they could possibly save. And with that, I took those estimates and developed a report, and that's how I developed an estimate of how much energy the university could save. And then they would implement these policies on a timeline.
Good. Joey?
Well, the answer to if I kept the marshmallow would be yes. You can't really not keep that, something like that.
Great. Well, our time has come to an end. Let me thank our panelists, Joey and Tyrone and Kristen and Gil, and thank the audience for those terrific questions. And I will now turn the podium back over to Bess And the panel will exit stage right.
All right.
Thank you to our wonderful panelists for all of your great questions, and to the folks watching at home on our live stream and tweeting us their questions. We'll continue to take those to @WhiteHouse and @WhiteHouseOSTP, #SoSTEM. I now have the thrill to introduce the White House's Chief Technology Officer. President Obama created this position for the first time when he took office in 2009, and we're thrilled to be joined today by the Chief Technology Officer, Todd Park.
Hello. Good morning. How is everybody? Fantastic. Well, what an amazing group we have here today. We're absolutely thrilled to be with you here at the White House to talk about the importance of STEM and how awesome it is. I'm Todd Park, the U.S. Chief Technology Officer. In my job at the White House, I advise the President on how we can help unleash the power of technology for all kinds of innovative uses that can benefit Americans. One of our country's greatest economic strengths is technology and the talent and ingenuity that continually power its advancement. Technology opens doors to new opportunities and ways of doing things we might not have ever even imagined possible. And one especially exciting part of my job I want to talk about today is making sure we're making the best use of our national data resources to spur as much innovation and economic growth and general awesomeness as humanly possible, and to tap into the unbelievably exciting opportunities that open data makes possible. So what is open data? The federal government collects and creates a vast amount of scientific, statistical, economic, financial, geospatial, and other data that can act as fuel for economic growth, scientific discovery, and innovation. We've already opened up huge amounts of these data to the American people and put it on the internet for free. If you go to data.gov, or our website, you can check out the latest catalog of these data sets and grab them for yourself. The public can access government-produced data sets about a huge range of topics, ranging from what different hospitals may charge for different procedures, to weather and climate measurements, to car safety data, to incredibly exciting databases of biomedical scientific knowledge produced by our National Institutes of Health, and much, 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 much more. And what we're seeing is entrepreneurs, innovators, researchers, scientists, business owners, and students just like you grabbing that free data and using it to solve problems, build new features, apps, products, services, even entire new companies, and creating a lot of jobs. So one of many, many examples I want to tell you about is a company called Storm Pulse, which uses freely available government weather data to help businesses protect themselves and their assets from potentially hazardous weather. There's a whole industry, in fact, of weather forecasting, weather mobile apps, weather insurance, and much more, fueled by weather data made freely available by the American government. Another example is a company called All Tuition, a Chicago-based startup that provides services powered by data from our Department of Education to help students and parents manage the financial aid process for college. As yet another useful example, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recently released a new data set that for the first time shows what hospitals charge for different services associated with the 100 most common types of hospital stays. The data have revealed huge variations in hospital charges across the country, even within a given metropolitan area. So for example, in Birmingham, Alabama, the average hospital charge for a hip and knee replacement varies from $23,000 at one hospital to $141,000 at another. This is really, really useful information to know. In fact, within 24 hours of us publishing this information, it was downloaded over 100,000 times, the complete data set for the whole country. And if you're interested in data that's truly out of this world, I'd encourage you to check out NASA's amazing open data resources that include information like a lunar map catalog that contains maps of the moon's surface, including Apollo landing sites, or a database of images of craters by name, location, and latitude on the surface of the planet Venus, and much, much, much more. Open government data fuels scientific discovery, innovation, invention, and economic growth. And believe me, President Obama loves open data just as much as I do. He understands the value of open data and knowledge and believes that data should be open and available to the public, to entrepreneurs, scientists, innovators, to all of you, instead of being trapped in government systems. That's why last year he signed a directive requiring that going forward, data generated by the government will be made available in open, machine-readable formats, meaning that's in formats that are easier to access and use, while appropriately safeguarding privacy, confidentiality, and security. We've made great progress on this front. But we've got to keep the momentum going, and that's where you come in. As the president says all the time, you are the ones that will keep America innovating toward discoveries we can't even imagine or dream of today, and toward solutions to the world's most important problems. You are the hope for the future. And open data can help you in your quest to do so. It provides a vast reservoir of free raw material, free information to power your studies, your experiments, your inventions. It can be really, really powerful fuel, key ingredients that help fuel the launch of your first company, and your second, and your third, and your fourth. In fact, I believe, and actually my background is that of a tech entrepreneur, I believe that someone in this room is going to tap into our open data treasure chest, our country's open data treasure chest, that's free to all at data.gov, and use it to create a company or come up with some incredible scientific discovery that will literally change the world. Who will it be in this room? Who's it going to be? Time will tell, and I can't wait to meet you, whoever you are, and hear all about it. Now, what I'd like to do next is introduce our next speaker, Leland Melvin, who has, I think, the coolest job bio in Washington. He is both a former NFL player and an astronaut. And he's been running NASA's education office for more than 3 years now. And before that, he flew to the International Space Station on 2 space shuttle missions. So for a guest who literally is out of this world, please welcome Leland. Come on up, sir.
Thanks, Dr. Park. I'm very excited to be here. How are you guys doing? Oh, come on. How you doing? All right. I'm very proud of you because I'm proud of you for what you're doing now, but I'm proud of you for what you're going to be doing in the future. One of you in this room, as Todd Park said, you may be changing the world and inventing and developing something, but one of you may be the first person to walk on the Martian surface. Who's going to be in here? Raise your hands. Any Martian surface walkers in here? Right there? Okay. And when I was on the space station in 2008, my first flight, I was there with the first female commander, Dr. Peggy Whitson. So for the ladies in the house, you can do it just like the guys, right? Come on, come on, come on. Okay, well, I want to show you a video clip of what it's like to live and work in space. And Mike Hopkins and Rick Mastracchio are going to give you a little message from space. So if we can roll the video.
We'd like to welcome you to the second annual State of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Address, or SoSTEM.
You'll have a chance to ask questions of the 2013 NASA Astronaut Candidate Class. Feel free to ask them anything you want. So, from 250 miles above the Earth, have a great SoSTEM.
So STEM. So help me welcome the 2013 astronaut class and Joe Acaba to the stage. And you can ask them anything. They're really, really cool. All right. Oh, this is me right here. So back in 2003, I think there was someone in here from Hardy Middle School. I think the young lady stood up over here from Hardy Middle School. We kicked off a program called the Educator Astronaut Program, where we had students nominate their teachers to become astronauts. Now, we said it was a two-way trip. We weren't going to try to send the teachers to space and just send them there and leave them there. But one of the people here in this room, Joe Acaba, he was a geology major in college. He was also a middle school and high school teacher from Florida. He was in the Peace Corps. He was in the Marines. He flew an STS-119, and he spent multiple months in space Expedition 31 and 32?
You got it.
Got it? So let me introduce you to Joe Acaba, who's going to be our host for this session, and give him a round welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Leland. So being a former middle school and high school teacher, I know you guys are probably getting bored of hearing the adults talk, right? I can see you smiling. All right, so I'll be very, very brief. What I really want to say is, here today we're talking about education, and we cannot stress enough the importance of education. It doesn't matter what you study, but when you have an education, it's going to give you a lot of different opportunities, and you got to learn how to grab those opportunities when they come up. And today is one of those opportunities to talk to these group of future astronauts today. And the second thing is, you got to work hard. We all can't be the smartest people. I know I'm not the smartest person, but I can work as hard as anybody else. Like the president said last night, nothing worthwhile is easy. But just because it's not easy doesn't mean it can't be fun. We love our jobs, and they're going to tell you about their jobs. And when I go to work every day, it's cool. I mean, I can't believe I'm an astronaut now. So you can have fun, and you can work hard. So when it comes to STEM, we have to give you guys a few things. One thing we have to give you is really good hands-on activities that will challenge you. Joey was talking about being bored in science class, so he made his little rocket. We need to give you guys opportunities that will challenge you. We also have to give you really, really good teachers that have resources. And then finally, you need a chance to interact with scientists and engineers. So today, you have that opportunity. I have with me the newest class of astronaut candidates. They're really, really smart, so please ask them hard questions. I'll take the easy ones, they'll get the hard ones. And so I'd like them to go around and tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll take all of your questions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christina Hammock, and when I was in middle school, I was really into science. I did science camps during summer and things like that. And I went on to major in engineering and science in college and became a physicist and electrical engineer before I was selected as an astronaut candidate. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Drew Morgan, and I'm a physician, a medical doctor in the U.S. Army. I studied engineering as an undergraduate in college, and then I went on and got my medical degree. And I was very fortunate to take care of a lot of brave soldiers, sailors, and airmen over the course of my career. I have 4 children, and they're in elementary school age, so probably similar age to many of you there in the audience.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Victor Glover, and I fly jets in the Navy. I used to fly jets in the Navy, and I'm a Californian. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and studied engineering, and I just want to tell a quick story that it was a teacher that told me in elementary school that you're going to be an engineer, and that moment stayed with me and is the reason that I wound up studying engineering. But it was the belief that he had in me that inspired me to choose engineering as a field to study.
Hi, my name is Jessica Meir, and I'm a scientist. And ever since I was a kid watching nature and wildlife documentaries with my dad and later with my 7th grade science teacher, I've been really fascinated by animals and the amazing things that they can do. So I went on to study biology, and in graduate school I studied really, really cool animals that can dive to incredible depths like emperor penguins and elephant seals, and birds that can fly almost as high as Mount Everest, trying to understand the biology behind that and how they could do the things they could do. So I would say with my previous career and this one, both definitely get the thumbs up for your interesting job question earlier there, Jake.
Hi, I'm Nick Hague. I am an Air Force flight test engineer. I grew up in western Kansas on a farm. So I guess I fell in love with space, staring up at night skies and seeing all the stars out there. I went on to study astronautical engineering at the Air Force Academy and served in the Air Force until selection.
Hi, I'm Josh Cassada. I grew up in Minnesota, and I'm realizing this morning that I was a lot tougher when I was your age. But when I was in Minnesota is when I first got excited about science and math. Not always easy, like Joe mentioned. Lots of hard work for me. And then ended up studying physics again because I didn't quite get it in high school. So I did that in college, and then I did high energy physics in graduate school. And then I became a Navy pilot and test pilot, and then even had a chance to start my own company real quickly, and then and I'm here.
Good morning. My name is Ann McClain,
And I got interested in engineering because when I was your age, I always looked at things and thought, how can this be better? How can this be different? And that's what engineers do, is they look at the world for the way that it could be instead of the way that it is. So I went on to college and I studied mechanical engineering. At graduate school, I studied aerospace engineering, and then I got to use those skills in the Army as a helicopter pilot and a later test pilot. And then I got to come here to NASA, and now we get to look at the whole universe and we get to wonder what will be, what can be.
Hi, my name is Nicole Mann, and I'm a Marine F-18 pilot. I went to school at the Naval Academy and studied mechanical engineering. But to be honest, learning didn't stop there. Even with our jobs today, we continue to learn. And I think that's the exciting thing about STEM, is that there's always new things to learn and new things to explore, and you can learn from people that are older from you, or you can learn from people that are younger, such as yourself.
All right, so as you can see, they're all pretty smart, right? So hopefully you have some hard questions. They're back in school right now. They were hired last year. They're going to go through about 18 months of basic astronaut training. So they're learning about the space station. They're going to learn how to do spacewalks, fly the robotic arm. They're going to learn how to fly jets. And maybe one of the hardest things that was really hard for me is we got to learn how to speak Russian. So if you want to do part of this in Russian, we can see how good these guys are. So with that, I think we are ready to wake you up a little bit, and we'll take your questions. Okay, we'll start right here in the front, please.
I have two quick questions and a comment. One for Ms. McClain. My dad's an aerospace engineer, and he codes engines for rockets. So I thought that was interesting that you were one too. One for Ms. Meir. I like marine biology as well, and I think it's really cool to study oceanography and stuff like that. And have you all seen Gravity? And what my dad said that it was totally bogus. And everything that happened in that movie just did not happen in real life, and it wouldn't. And what are your comments on that?
All right, do one of you want to start it, and then I'll finish it? I guess, has anybody seen it? Yeah, we've seen it. All right.
So in October, the government shut down for a bit, but we had some time on our hands, and there was a big group of us that went one weekend to watch it in 3D, which is probably the totality of our experience in space, is watching Gravity in 3D. So I'd love to hear what was wrong with the film, if you could get some notes from your dad.
Yeah, and you know, I did see the movie, and I enjoyed it, and having been to space twice, your dad he's right that a lot of the science is bogus, but it's a movie from Hollywood, so we kind of expect that. But what was interesting is that the detail of what they showed about the different spacecraft inside the space station was really realistic. And the one good thing about it is that it has people talking about going to space, and that's pretty important. Next question, please. Let's come over here. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Sam Alterman, a senior at BCC High School in Maryland. First, I have a quick comment about gravity, which is actually from my physics teacher, which was that it should have been called elongated circular motion, not gravity. And then I have a question that's mainly for Mr. Acaba, but it's also for all the panelists. One of the most important things in getting me interested in science as a career, and that's made me really want to go into physics, is programmed through the Department of Energy called QuarkNet, where some of my friends and I set up a detector to detect subatomic particles called muons. And it's just gotten us into experimentation and data collection and running experiments. And I was wondering if NASA's looking into more of that, and if maybe that could also be something that could be integrated with the space program, is having sort of astronauts doing experiments in space that are then tied into experiments on the ground in schools.
Okay, you weren't listening earlier about the easy questions. So that's a great question, and I'm glad that you guys are doing that. And that's part of what I was talking about when we're discussing STEM. We need to make things that are exciting for you, that you can relate to, and that are going to challenge you. And actually, a lot of what we do on the space station, we do interact with school kids. When I was up there, we had a spider that was flown because a student wanted to know how that spider would hunt in space, and it was a great success, luckily. So we are very interested in your ideas, and we're constantly looking for experiments that we can fly that you guys can use in the classroom, that teachers can use in the classroom. So we are, and keep doing that great work. Yes, young lady.
Hi, I'm Sydney, and I have two questions. My first one is, how much oxygen do you use in space? And my second question is, do you sleep on the ships?
Okay, I probably owe you a prize because I can't answer the first question. The good thing about being an astronaut is that we have a lot of smart engineers that work a lot of our systems on the ground. But we do have an oxygen system up there where we can actually make oxygen so we can breathe, because it's very expensive to take supplies up to the space station. And then about sleeping, you can sleep anywhere you want. The good thing about being in microgravity, up and down, they don't really matter. So I slept standing up for 4 months, but it was good sleep. Let's come back over here. Everybody in the back want to wake up? Yes, right here.
Okay, I'm Natalie Nante. I go to Our Lady of Lourdes, and I'm in 8th grade. Although I've heard that wormholes are entirely hypothetical, if they were real, would you actually be able to use them to travel through like the space-time continuum and everything?
Where's our physicist?
You want to take it?
We're very frightened.
It would save us a lot of money. I don't know how to answer that. I'm an experimentalist, I'll be honest, not a theorist. Those guys are a lot smarter. They get paid a lot more money. I just turn the wrenches. But you're right. There are some incredibly exciting theories out there that obviously we get to put to use and test out and learn more and more about the universe that just makes it that much more exciting to get up in the morning.
Great. Yes, young lady.
My name is Jayla Grant from Hardy Middle School, and I'm in 8th grade. I have a question for all the military people. My mom is in the military, and my father was in the military. How has your military background helped you when you've gone up to space?
Vic, you want to start?
Sure. Well, like Joe said earlier, we're astronaut candidates, so we're in the training process to become fully qualified astronauts. But I can talk about how it's helped up to this point. Being an officer in the military exposes you to a diverse range of challenges that the military works very hard to prepare you to handle. And so I think it's that breadth of exposure. The Navy has its own universities. We have an undergraduate institution, and we have a graduate institution that we try to integrate into the way we prepare our officers, because we think that critical thinking and writing abilities are very important. I'm an aviator. I fly airplanes. The Navy spent a lot of time preparing me to fly, to teach me how to fly, to operate, to command, to lead, and teach. And now I fly airplanes for NASA, and that experience directly translates. There's a lot of different ways that the things that the military has done directly correlate. But I think one of the most important things is that they also put you in charge of small to large groups of people that come from all over our nation that look like this entire audience, very diverse in age, background, ethnicity, gender, and you have to take that team and accomplish a specific mission. And I think that's probably the most important skill that they provide.
Ann or Nicole, anything you want to add?
I had something to add. Like you, I grew up in a military family, and I moved every couple of years. And then I went on to have my own military career. But one of the things that I took away from being a child and growing up in a military family is moving every couple of years and making new friends. And we've talked a lot today about science and technology, but making good friendships and bonding with your crewmates and your teammates is as important as anything. And I learned that by being a military kid and moving around every couple of years and having to start all over and make new friends, as I know you're familiar with.
And thank you to your mom and dad for the service.
Can we get one from Twitter on here?
Sure.
We're going a little crazy on Twitter here, so I want to make sure we're getting those questions. We've gotten a lot of questions for our women astronaut candidates about what you think are good ways to get more women interested in space, in STEM, and make more candidate classes look as diverse as this candidate class.
From my experience, I had every opportunity that everybody around me had, and I think the biggest thing you can do is believe in yourself, and that's not gender specific or background specific. If you believe that you can do it and you continue to raise your hand to go toward your goals, then you're going to get there. Because to go out and get your dreams, you're not going to find them within your comfort zone. You're going to have to do something scary. You're going to have to sign up for a class you don't know that you can pass. You're going to have to apply to a school you don't know you can get into. You're going to move to a state that you've never been to, and all of those things are scary. My particular moment that I remember this was I was sitting on an airplane flying across the country to go to New York for school. I'm from Washington State. That was all the way across the country. I'd never been to New York. I was very scared. I was going to a school, West Point, that I didn't know if I could get through. And you know what, it would have been really easy for me to just tell my parents, you know what, I want to stay here, I want to do something different. But you have to face that fear that's inside of you, and you have to believe in yourself. And if you believe in yourself, then people around you are going to believe in yourself. And every time you do something that scares you and you're successful, then the next time it's going to be a little less scary, or at least it's going to be a familiar feeling that you know what, I can do this. Because the next time I had that feeling, that clarity, was flying down to NASA earlier this year to interview to be an astronaut. And I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? This is scary. I don't know if I'm going to get this job. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm smart enough. But the best thing you can do, no matter what your background is, who you are, is to raise your hand and keep moving forward. Don't self-eliminate yourself before you try.
Okay, we think we had a question in the back. That's great. Yes.
I had 2 questions. My first question is, what are your daily activities as astronaut candidates? And my second question is, do they teach you about the feelings you might feel when you leave the orbit of Earth?
Those are good questions. Want to start it?
Sure. So the first half, what does our daily life look like? And the most exciting part, I think, is that we're doing different things all the time. We're constantly challenged. We're constantly doing exciting things. We're not just sitting at a desk doing the same thing day after day. And so far, our training has consisted of going to land survival in Maine, where we learned some skills about surviving in all types of different conditions and facts that can help you with that. We've had some flight training. 3 of us went to Pensacola to get flight training with the Navy, those of us that didn't have flight training experience with the military before, like many of these pilots. And now we're getting training in the NASA T-38 jets. So that's incredibly exciting, especially for people that have always had a passion for flying. And then the Russian language training, which has been mentioned as well. That's sort of the core that we've had so far. Soon we'll be moving into the ISS, the International Space Station Systems and Sciences, some robotics, and then the EVA, the spacewalk, how to do that, how to start learning how to do that in the pool. So all incredibly exciting stuff that we're looking forward to. And the second half, the question I wasn't.
Yeah, Nicole, I think they're talking about what you might feel when you get to space.
Sure. So I can only imagine what it would feel like to be in a zero gravity and to be in space. We got a little bit of a glimpse at that. NASA has a jet called the Vomit Comet, and it flies parabolas. And so what it does is it'll go up to about 40,000 feet, and then it does a dive, and it can give you the sensation of 0G for about 20 seconds. I thought it was going to be kind of like swimming, in a swimming pool, and it would be really calm and you would just float around. But I tell you, it was a lot different, because when you're floating in 0G, you just touch the wall a little bit and off you go, and you can't stop yourself. So you find, moving your arms like you can stop, and until you run into something else, conservation of energy, you're going to continue to move. And so we get a little bit of a glimpse at that, and of course we talk to the medical community to see what kind of other physiological effects you will have in 0G. So they prepare us, but I think you can only imagine what it would be like, and Joe may be able to explain if it's really, truly the same as the Vomit Comet or what you learn, but I'm very excited to find out for real.
It's totally awesome. You want? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add something real quick to the first part of your question, which is, in general, our days are probably a lot like your days as students. We are asked to do things that we are just learning about while being evaluated in front of a group on a daily basis. So in band class, maybe you have to perform while you're trying to get to the next chair, or maybe in sports after school you have to try out. And these things are scary and they take you out of your comfort zone. But the important thing is you get comfortable learning new things and not being afraid to be perfect every time you do something new. So our days are a lot like your days, and you can take away the confidence that you gain when you learn something new and have to be under pressure to perform it is exactly what we're doing right now in our career on a daily basis.
Let's take one more from the audience, then we'll take one from Twitter.
Oh, no. Yep, go ahead, please.
I'm Taryn, and my question was, when are you going into space?
That's a good question.
Taryn, my name's Josh. My question is, when am I going into space?
It's a really good question, and it's a complicated process to get into space, and it's not always clear how that happens. So we're always training, and we're always ready to go, and we'll get selected at some point. But the exact date we don't know. But again, we're doing something we really love doing, so we don't mind learning and studying and doing all that stuff. And I know we all look forward to the day of getting on that rocket and going up to space.
So this next one is, watching in class, all want to be astronauts. Teacher wants us to ask, how do we get there?
You want to take it?
Sure. I'll start out. Everybody jump in. But I think the first panel hit on it is that you just don't give up. Find your passion and use that passion to fuel all your activities. It's not one unique decision or moment in time where you say, okay, I've got to make this decision and I'm going to become an astronaut, and then it happens. It's a lot of little decisions that you make along the way to, propel yourself into that position, and there's going to be setbacks along the way. So don't ever get up. Make up your mind and pursue it, and you'll get to where you want to be.
And I would add that following your passion is probably the most important thing. As you heard, all of us have very, very different backgrounds. So the most important thing is to find what really drives you and excites you and excel at that. There's no magic recipe for becoming an astronaut. It's really just doing what you love. Obviously all of these STEM fields are key. We've all been involved in those, and finding out what really excites you and pursuing that.
Can I add one more little
Sure.
thing? First of all, thank you for joining us via the interwebs and using the technology to watch the state of the STEM. I know that's why you're watching over the internet. I would also like to say the passion piece is important, but you may not run into your passion on your first choice of a major or your first job experience. So I think it's also to add that while passion is important, put your best foot forward in everything that you do. Someone told me a long time ago, if you turn in a piece of paperwork, it should be your best work because it has your name on it. So when you put your name on something, make sure that it's your best work.
Victor made a really good point about being passionate. I mean, that's really what it comes down to is being excited about what you do. But I mentioned to a couple of my classmates as we walked in here, and this is completely serious. We're all incredibly fortunate to be selected to be part of this. But I'm also very envious of your position. You've got so many opportunities available to you. What I'm not envious of you is having to make a decision. There's just so many cool things for you to do, and I'm excited for you.
Great. Thank you all so much for your great questions, and thanks to the 2013 candidate class, to all of you for all that you are about to embark on and inspire us. And I think that all of us in the room look forward to seeing you all from the International Space Station sending us a video. So thank you so much. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Hey, just real quick before we go, I want to thank you all for coming here today. It's pretty cool talking to you. I miss being in the classroom, but if I could just take a second, can we have teachers in here that don't mind standing up? Any teachers that are in the house? If we can give them a round of applause, because they make it all happen. Thanks.
So thank you to all of our panelists today, all of our speakers. I know that there are many folks that are going to try and stick around here, but I also just want to thank all of you for your thoughtful questions and for your excitement about STEM. And we can't wait to see you next year at next year's SoSTEM and immediately following the State of the Union address. Thanks for making the trip and thanks for your passion, and we'll see you next year.